My name's Temple Grandin, and I am professor of animal science at Colorado State University.
Dr. Grandin, tell us what you're doing here in Fayetteville, Arkansas today.
Well, I'm going to be doing a talk on animal behavior because they're having a service dog conference today. I'm going to talk about my experiences with autism. I had no speech until age 4, give them tips on how to work with autistic kids, and give them insights into animal behavior, because a dog lives in a sensory-based world. It doesn't think in words. It thinks in smells, touch sensations, visual sensations. It's a sensory-based world. And another thing I'm going to discuss is different ways people think. You have visual thinkers that think completely in pictures. They're going to be good with animals. They'll be good with art, photography, and mechanical things, all kinds of mechanical things. Then you have a mathematical thinker. They see in patterns. Music and math go together. And then you've got your word thinkers. And then there's a lot of people that are combinations. And when you have an autistic person, you might have an extreme visual thinker or an extreme mathematician. And what we need to be doing with these kids is developing their strengths. You take the video game addicts, introduce them to car mechanics. That's been very successful in weaning some of the kids off of video games, and then they end up going into car mechanics for a career. When I started out in animal behavior, being a visual thinker was really helpful, because I was working on cattle handling facilities, and I observed that sometimes the animals would stop at a shadow, stop at a reflection. There'd be a rope hanging down, a coat on a fence, little things we don't notice, the animals noticed. And I noticed these things, and if you remove these distractions, then the animals would walk through the chute easily. Other people weren't seeing it. Now, I didn't know at the time, when I was in my 20s, that other people thought in words. They thought it was weird to be getting in the chute to see what cattle were seeing. But since I think in pictures, that was a totally sensible thing to do. And I found that I could fix problems with the chute by maybe changing a light to get rid of a reflection. I had a lot of problems with anxiety. And out at my aunt's ranch when I was a teenager, I noticed that when they put cattle in the squeeze chute for vaccinations, sometimes they relaxed. And some people with autism can be calmed down with deep pressure. So I built a squeezing machine that would apply deep pressure. Now, sensory issues are often a problem in autism. And some kids are very sound sensitive. Sometimes you can reduce that if the child controls the noisy device. Okay, they're afraid of the vacuum cleaner. You let the child turn that vacuum cleaner on and off. Okay, if they're going to go in the shop, they can take the electric drill and drill all kinds of stuff where they control it. They can sometimes get where they can tolerate the sound better. You know, some individuals are wearing headphones all the time. You wear headphones all the time, it'll make you more sensitive. You can wear them for the really bad stuff, like when the fire alarm went off in the hotel last night. Yeah, you'd wear it for that. But then other times, take them off when it's not noisy. I'm going to give them insights into how animals perceive the world and get across the idea that an animal is a sensory-based thinker, not a word-based thinker.
Talk about that a little more.
All of its memories, you know, people that think verbally, they're going to remember things as words. But the dog will remember a certain smell, or remember something it sees, something it hears, and different things it remembers sensory are associated with good and bad things. Yeah. But the memories are all sensory-based. They're not word-based. Well, they'll give them insight in helping to train service dogs, but I also want to give them some insight in how to work with some of these autistic kids, because we need the skills. When I was out working with large meatpacking plants on construction, and I was supervising the construction of equipment I had designed, I worked with metal fabricators that had invented equipment. They were very definitely autistic. They owned their shops, and the problem is these people are not getting replaced. They're playing video games in the basement. They ought to be fixing things over at the Tyson plant right now. And there's a real problem as these people are retiring out.
In the last number of years, we've started to understand more that more of us are on the spectrum than not. And I think there's become a wider understanding about that. And I think a lot of your work and your research has probably helped in that area, don't you think?
Well, what's happening now, it used to be, now it's 1 in 36 has some degree of autism. You see, in the mildest forms of autism is personality variant. You got some people more interested in social. The autistic tends to be more interested in what they do. Okay, a great flight for me is a 2-hour construction on tilt-up warehouse construction or concrete forming. that's something that is really interesting. People that are really social probably wouldn't want to talk about that for 2 hours. You see, I am what I do. That's why it's so important to help people on the autistic spectrum to get into good careers that they like. I've talked to lots of TV camera people, and there's a lot of them. They're either autistic, dyslexic, or ADHD, and they're not getting replaced because they're getting kind of pigeonholed and they're not having their strengths developed. Another type of autistic is a mathematician. And just in the last 2 weeks, I've heard really bad reports of like elementary school kids that are super smart in math not being allowed to get more difficult math books, and they're getting completely bored doing baby math, and they need to be moved ahead. For me, I don't understand algebra, but there'll be another kid where an algebra book given to a third grader is going to open a gigantic door, and you should just be allowed to work on that algebra book in the third grade class, because they turn into behavior problems when they're bored stiff.
When are they going to put you in charge?
Well, I don't know. But the problem with the math genius kids being held back, I've heard of 3 bad cases of that in the last 2 weeks. In my book, Visual Thinking, Hidden Gifts of People Who Think in Pictures, Patterns, and Abstractions, I talk about that we need these skills because there's a lot of people retiring out, like people I worked with not getting replaced. Factories don't have anybody to fix equipment. I've been on many, many questionable elevators. They are not getting serviced. These are mechanical devices. The other good thing about these hands-on jobs, they will not be replaced by artificial intelligence. That's another reason right now for the autistic individuals pushing some of the more skilled trades jobs, because they are artificial intelligence proof. I just want to say, the kids that are different, get out and get into good careers, because what's made life satisfying for me is having an interesting career. I've worked on improving how animals are handled, and I want to see these kids get out, do worthwhile things, get into careers that they're really going to like. And another big problem we're having is they're not making the transition from school to work. Because granddads come up to me all the time and they go, oh, I had a paper route when I was a kid. I learned how to work. And that granddad discovers he's autistic when the kids get diagnosed. Well, we got to find paper route substitutes for kids now. They need to be walking the next door neighbor's dog. They got to learn how to do a job that's outside the home with somebody else is the boss, maybe church volunteer jobs. Instant or legal, get into jobs. But let's avoid the chaotic, rapid multitasking jobs like a chaotic takeout window. I want to avoid that. The other thing is, I have problems remembering long strings of verbal information. So give me a pilot's checklist for a task that involves a sequence, like closing out a cash register. Give me step 1, step 2, like in a pilot's checklist format. That would save a lot of jobs because I need an external working memory that's written. That's a very easy accommodation. There were 2 electrician apprenticeships lost because the boss went yak, 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 and the apprentice installed the wrong light fixtures in the wrong places. You see, if they had just written that down, that wouldn't have happened.
Very smart. Love it.
Okay, I think that should do it.